Good evening and welcome to our July 27th, 2022 Board of Douglas County Commissioners business meeting. I want to welcome those of you who are with us at the historic courthouse and folks joining us on Zoom. Also, I'm just going to share a bit of instruction for public comment to get us started. Each action item that's on the agenda will offer an opportunity for relevant public comment about that topic. We ask that you wait until the agenda item that you're here for comes up for discussion. Additionally, near the start of our meeting, we will invite folks to provide general public comment to the commission, which is a time for addressing issues not on today's agenda, but related to general county business. All public comments should be directed to the county commission. The public should also know that comments received by the commission during our meetings do not represent the views of Douglas County government. And if deemed to be necessary in the future, we may direct staff to not record public comments out of concern for YouTube's content policies. The goal being that all meetings remain as accessible as possible. We will first call on folks who are here in person, then we will turn to online commenters who are with us tonight. If you are on Zoom, please plan to use the raise your hand function when the time comes and listen for staff to call your name. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that everyone give their full name and Douglas County residence for our meeting minutes. We also reserve the right to mute and remove any speaker who is vulgar, rude, or inappropriate. If visual aids are used during the meeting, the presenter will share their screen. Please know that online participants will not be able to view those without a computer, smartphone, or tablet during tonight's meeting, but materials are published online for your reference. Lastly, a recording of this meeting will be available on our YouTube page and website. With that, we'll get started with the consent agenda. Anything to pull off for further discussion from commissioners? Seeing none, I'll ask if anybody in the public would like to pull anything from the consent agenda. Any hands raised online? Okay, that will ready for motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as items 1 and 2.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. And with that, we'll move on to general public comment. Thank you, Jill, for getting me a list. Got a few folks signed up. I will call them first and then double check if anybody else has shown up and move to folks online. First, we have Thad. And Thad, when you come up, you'll need to press the button on that microphone until you see the green light, and then you're ready to talk.
Did I get it? I tell you, I'm going to get this protocol down. Thank you. Thank you very much for helping me get started on this. I'm looking ahead. I know that you all are not dealing with this now. I'm looking ahead at the agenda item you'll have about the Wakarusa extension that's going to be considered in terms of part of your budget that's coming down the road. I'm here as a representative of Lettuce, that's Lawrence Ecology Teams United in Sustainability. And I think, and I apologize if I'm redundant for some of you, but Lettuce is a 9-member, that is 9 different green teams and an interfaith network representing issues of concern in terms of earth care. So our concern is about the extension of Wakarusa Drive. We're concerned about what the consequences of that might be, as well as once if it is built, as well as in the construction of it. We feel that there's an incredible problem of danger to the riparian area. That's something that you just don't replace automatically. And we're really having a crisis now of biodiversity. We think this is a serious issue that happens if you go across the river, as well as the construction that creates in terms of extra concrete and the water that would be flowing off into the river. And of course, going into very valuable farmland that's there, which is of course an incredible place for microbes and diversity as well. Now we're concerned about, we know there is some issue as far as emergency response time out there, and we realize that, and we're sympathetic, except that we know that people, when they build out there, they realize that they did have access, although this might speed it up some, but we think that that does not weigh well against what might happen if you have the destruction of other life there, the healing there that would be required. It's also, as you all probably know, a wildlife corridor from there up through to the Wakarusa wetlands, which imperils again a problem that we have in terms of respecting the heritage of the Wakarusa wetland. So I'm asking you, as you come to that, to consider the 2040 plan. The 2040 Development Comprehensive Plan set earth care, environmental concerns as a very high priority. It was not, and as our intent, we advocated for that. And this was not anti-growth, it was sustainable growth. And we really appreciate you considering sustainable growth, not growth just for the sake of it. Thank you very much for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Michael? So we have a sign up. Well, Michael has given you his spot. We'll call. Okay, well, I'll let you go next. Thanks. Go ahead.
Am I on sequence?
It's okay. You just showed up after we had already pulled the sign up
I'm
sheet, but
sorry.
go right ahead,
I'm
please.
Happy to wait.
Go ahead. You're there.
Thank you. I think I'll work. Yeah. Thank you. My name is Michael Allman. I'm with Sustainability Action Network. My organization is part of the coalition of people and groups, including Mr. Holcomb, who just spoke, concerned about the preservation of the environment, farmland, riparian corridors, whatever, regarding the Wakarusa Extension Bridge. Not too many months ago, this body was deliberating quite extensively how to protect the agricultural soils of this county, particularly the prime agricultural soils, when allowing industrial solar to build in the county. Let me read you a brief thing from a book, Bridge at the Edge of the World by Gus Speth, former chair of the White House Council on Environmental Quality. Each year, the US is losing about 2 million acres of open space, 6,000 acres a day, and about 1.2 million acres of that is farmland, with prime farmland disappearing 30% faster than the average. So I'm wondering where your resolve went from that discussion to this consideration of a road and a bridge through prime farmland, capability #1 farmland, south of 27th and Wakarusa Drive. That area is Tier 3 within Plan 2040, not scheduled for development beyond the extent of the Horizon 2040, beyond the time frame. It's not in the city. It's not served by any utilities at this point. And Plan 2040 as well as Transportation 2040 both note that linking transportation to land use planning is critical because each aspect dictates the design of the other. That's Transportation 2040. Plan 2040, expanded or new transportation facilities allow a community to grow into new areas. Land use and transportation are inextricably linked. In other words, we have a county engineer who is pushing this road project and a city engineer and KDOT engineers, all putting a road into an area that is the best prime farmland. It's not slated for growth. And this road will determine our land use policy.
Your time is up.
That's backwards and upside down. And I request that you delete
Your
the
time
funding
is up.
from that project. Thank you very much.
Michael? Other Michael, sorry about that. My apologies.
There's two of us in the room. My name's Michael Lawrence, Accountability. I didn't address this last week because I didn't have the full story. As I came in the room last week, there was a commotion happening at the front here. And as I got out my camera and started to film that commotion, suddenly it ended. What I found out that ended up happening there This is the second time that I personally have witnessed leaders in this county putting our deputies in untenable positions, asking them to enforce laws that they cannot enforce. Somebody in this room sent a deputy to the front rail to move a sign or to expect that a citizen would move a sign. It's a violation. You can't do that. He didn't have to move his sign. That same deputy at one point was sent out to the law enforcement center out front here to arrest me one night because I was out there with a camera. This county is extremely lucky that our deputies know the laws better than their leaders do. Because the Lawrence Police Department would follow through with those acts and get themselves into trouble. That's what we've seen. So I'm going to ask that this county reevaluate what they're directing these deputies to do. And I'm talking about the Douglas County Sheriff Department leadership as well. I've lodged a complaint with the department this week about 2 members of their brass over the way things were handled. And I've now been given emails that show this. There was a colluded effort between LPD and Douglas County to violate civil rights. And they involved deputies in that scheme to do that. And fortunately for us, those deputies knew what they were about to do couldn't happen legally. And they refrained from doing that. And they're probably one of the few law enforcement officers that I've ever had somewhat of a negative interaction with that I continue to praise to this day because they knew the law. The person that asked them to do that in here needs to be taught what our rights are. And anybody that has an ability to direct these deputies to do something needs to understand what our rights are and what the limitations of what you can ask those deputies to do. The last thing that I want to touch on is revenue neutral taxation. I said last week that there's a lot of people that aren't old enough to remember the 80s and remember the struggles that we went through. Have any of you double checked and gone back to verify any of the information I gave you about 12 to 17% mortgage rates? Farmers going out of business because they're paying 20% on machinery, credit cards at 35%, CDs paying 14 and 15 to the rich people. It's coming. Revenue neutral. When you exceed that, you're taxing us more than what you need. And we need to cut spending. There's spending areas that need to be dropped a little bit. Thank you.
Justin.
My name is Dr. Justin Spees. I'm running for Douglas County Commissioner in District 1. Seats currently held by Democrat Patrick Kelly there. I'm running as a Republican, but I'm asking everyone that's a non-Democrat to vote for me. You don't have to be a Republican. You just have to reject everything that these guys are about. And I appreciate you bringing up that incident last week. That sign was my sign. It happened to me, but I think you're giving that deputy just a little too much credit, man. He was ready to violate. He was ready to do it. The only thing that stopped him from following out those orders is that I just told him, no, don't touch my shit. The only thing that stopped him from doing that. So I think that there's a lot of lessons in that. There's a valuable one. You got to stand up for yourself because these people, they don't know the rules. They just do what they're told so they can keep their job. These people up here definitely don't know the rules. That's why they can direct them to do whatever they want. They can do their bidding for them. And then they don't do anything but try to follow through on that because they don't know the rules and they want to keep their job. So the only thing you got protecting yourself from them right now is yourself to stand up. I want to talk about some problems and solutions that are going around here. I think that it's easy to look around and see there's a lot of problems around here and people are quick to point them out. I agree with that. One of the problems we just talked about here is these people not knowing the officers, the sheriff's deputies, the police officers, our elected officials not knowing all the rules and how we have to look out for ourselves. I think the biggest problem we face right now is the looming medical tyranny that they're about ready to impose on us. Yeah, it's pretty funny, isn't it? Yeah. The mask mandates are going to come back. They're going to come back sooner than later. So what are we going to do about it? Going back to that sheriff's deputy doing what he did, the lesson in it is we got to stand up for ourselves because there ain't nobody up there that's going to resist this. part of the solution to fight this is I'm asking for your vote, because I'll go in here and I'll resist everything that they're about, every single thing. If you're curious how I stand on any particular issue, do me a favor, just contact Patrick Kelly and then think to yourself, Justin would do the opposite of that. You'll know every single position of mine based on what this fool stands for. So if I get voted in, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to fight against this overreach. I'm going to fight against all the taxes and the ridiculous spending on the 1,300 nonprofit social justice agencies that we have around here. Very wasteful spending. So I encourage you, when you think of solutions to the problem around here, look in the mirror. How do you contribute to that? What are you going to do about it? You know, stand up for what you believe in, because these people aren't going to protect you. They want to shut you down.
Joe?
My name is Joe Herrick, and I'd like to start with a quote from Thomas Jefferson, and I quote, "There is no justification for taking away individuals' freedom in the guise of public safety," end quote. Amendments 5 and 14 of the U.S. Constitution states, "No person shall be deprived of their life, liberty, or property without due process." Liberty is defined as freedom from restraint in application to the body or to the will or to the mind. Liberty is the freedom to say no. U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 states that the power to make law, modify law, and repeal law is vested in the legislative departments of government. Vested means those powers are irrevocable and cannot be given away or transferred for any reason. Therefore, mandates have no power of law because it is illegal for the legislature to give governors or health agencies the power to legislate. Since mandates are not law, and since they violate the rule of law, not abiding by mandates is not a violation of the law, nor a violation of the Constitution. The 14th Amendment, Equal Protection Law, calls for all Americans to be treated equally. Treating the masked or the unmasked, the vaccinated or unvaccinated, pro-life or pro-abortion differently is a violation of the Constitution. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, Titles 1 and 2 states, "Public accommodations are prohibited from unlawful discrimination and must allow free and equal access to all goods, services, facilities, privileges, and accommodations as the general public. A private business cannot lawfully deny you service if they are open to the general public while they are engaging in commerce." Finally, I'm asking each of us to think critically. It is my opinion that many citizens in our city and county are breaking multiple laws by allowing free speech to be censored and turning a blind eye to different forms of discrimination. This is not only hypocritical, but it is the very definition of bigotry. We must all adhere to the supreme laws of the land, the United States Constitution. Thank you.
Those are all the individuals that we have signed up. Is there anybody else in the building that would like to offer general public comment? Okay, seeing no hands, I'll double check if anybody online. Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and close general public comment and move on to our regular agenda item 3.1, presentation from the planning department.
Commissioners, we're going to move Mary Miller into the panel. Go ahead, Mary. Thanks.
Hi. Good evening, Commissioners. I will be sharing my screen, but I don't have the ability right now. Can you make it possible for me to share my screen? Thank you. This is a site plan for a mini storage facility that is proposed. Get this arranged. At the southeast corner of the intersection of Highway 56 and East 1260 Road. It's in the southeast corner of the area known as Baldwin Junction, the intersections of 56 and 59 Highway. It's adjacent to East 1260 Road, and it would take access from that road. The property is not within an urban growth area or planning area of any city, and it contains about 5 acres. Typically, you'll see mini storage facilities before you as conditional use permits, but this property is zoned GB or general business, and mini storage facilities are allowed in this district with approval of a site plan. The proposed development would have 15 mini storage buildings enclosed. They're 40 feet by 100 feet, and 15 of those, and there would be one 40 by 100 open building, and that would be for boat and RV storage. There'd be a total of 384 units. If you look up in the northwest corner of this graphic, the access would be shared between this property and the property to the north. The same property owner owns both properties now, but if the property to the north would be sold, then an access easement would be needed to ensure that this shared access could remain. And there is a note on the site plan to that effect. The facility will be gravel to accommodate stormwater management, but the parking area and the drive will be paved. There will be an office in this facility, but it'll be for appointments only. So there will be no water run to the facility and no septic system. The property was zoned for business development in 2009 and platted. With the adoption of the 2020 zoning regulations, that zoning district converted to GB or general business. The graphic in the bottom on the right shows an area, one of the lots that has been recently developed with a propane distribution facility. That's marked with a star. We have the subject lot, and then there are 2 other lots in the GB district in this corner that have not yet been developed. With this site plan, they are providing the amount of parking required by the code, and the lighting they're proposing would be compliant with the requirements of the zoning regulations. The zoning regulations have a list of use-specific standards for mini storage facilities. And I'll just go over these briefly. It must be located in the urban growth area or in an appropriate zoning district. And as I mentioned, this is in the GB or general business district. It must be within a quarter mile of a hard surface road of higher classification, and this is within 160 feet of US Highway 59. Security fencing and lighting must be provided, and that is being provided with this plan. A light must be confined to the subject property, and light poles cannot be taller than 15 feet. This facility will use only building mounted lighting, and the lighting will be pointed downward and confined to the subject property. Screening is required along any residential or residentially developed property, and there is no residential property adjacent to this property. Access drives would be a minimum of 20 feet for one-way traffic and 25 feet for two-way. And the access drives that are proposed are a minimum of 35 feet wide. And this would allow easy accommodation of the boats and RVs that would go back to the rear of the property. The parking, the use-specific standards have 1 parking requirement. That's 1 space for 8,000 square feet of floor area, plus 1 per employee. In the parking tables, there is also another standard. This is an error in our zoning regs that we will correct shortly, but it requires parking for a mini storage facility at 1 space per 100 units plus 4. And so we calculated parking with each one of these calculations, and they both came up with 8 parking spaces required. So the amount of parking being provided would be compliant regardless of which one of the standards we used. All storage must be in enclosed buildings unless there's a portion designated as vehicle storage. And the plan does have 15 enclosed buildings and 1 open building. No outside storage is being proposed. The access drives and parking spaces must be shown on the plan and designated on the site. And these are shown on the plan and will be designated. The prohibited activities must be listed, and these are listed on the plan. And activities that are prohibited, the intent is to make sure this remains a storage facility. So garage sales, commercial sales, automobile repairs, dwelling units, so these kind of activities are not allowed. And that way it keeps the use a storage use. The area shall be policed by the owner for removal of trash and debris, and this is noted on the plan. A keyless keypad or similar system is required, and this would allow access for the fire and emergency vehicles. And the fire district chief has been working with us, and he will work with the applicant following construction of the facility to ensure that they have the appropriate access, so that they're able to access the site at any time. And all storage units shall be oriented toward the interior of the site. Doors may not be located along or visible from the perimeter of the site. There are some of the facilities that will have doors facing towards the exterior. And in these cases, screening, fencing, or landscaping will be provided so they are not visible from the perimeter of the site. Staff is recommending approval of the site plan based on the findings in the report and subject to the conditions of approval. And these are summarized here. I just wanted to note that most of these have already been met. The applicant provided a revised lighting information, which shows that the wall pack lighting will have shields. And so the lighting will be directed downward. The access easement and the parking table was added to the site plan. The site plan does show the screening, fencing, or landscaping. That condition would remain just in case other doors are located near, visible from the perimeter, they would still need that requirement. And so it's not necessary to remove those conditions. I just wanted to let you know that they have been met. So that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer questions if you have any, and I believe the applicant is present in the commission room tonight.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Would the applicant like to come add anything or share anything with the commission? Okay, thanks. Any questions from commissioners? No, seeing no questions for you, Mary, we'll open this up for public comment and see if anybody might be with us online. Okay, we'll close public comment and bring this back. Appreciate the overview and glad to hear that the recommendations from staff have already been incorporated and met. And if you don't have any questions, I think we'll be ready for a motion.
Move to approve site plan SP 22-00167 for mini or self-storage facility at approximately 5 acres located in the southwest corner, the intersection of East 1260 Road and North 300 Road, Highway 56, Lot 3 of Daniels Baldwin Junction, based on the findings listed in the staff report and including the conditions listed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you, Mary. Thanks for the presentation. Thank you all for joining us. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to item 3.2. Sarah, are you?
Yep, Commissioners, we're moving Director of Capital Projects, Jay Zimmershed, into the panel, and he is available to answer the questions on the next slide. Jay, you're in the panel if you want to. There you go.
Hello, Commissioners. Good evening. My name is Jay Zimmershed, Director of Capital Projects, Douglas County, Kansas. Here today to present to you probably the first in many steps of remodel of this building to create staff efficiencies within it. And this was a very small part of the overall master plan document that was generated back in, I believe it was 2020. This is our first step. As you're aware, our elections group is now out and functioning over at the malls. And I think they're very happy with how that's going with the current election. And so what that has created is kind of the missing piece within this building that we were needing to begin some of the staff relocations to create efficiency of delivery of services to the community while staying within the confines of this building. Really, in summary, what this project is doing is roughly taking I believe it's 5 individuals that are currently located in our AP payroll department, which is grouped underneath the clerk, and moves them from the second floor into the first floor space with other clerk functions, that obviously being made possible because we've relocated some staff associated with elections out of the building. We are looking at using a cooperative contract. This will be a new one, but it's very similar to Sourcewell to accomplish the work. So we're achieving it through use of cooperative contract, which provides for guaranteed pricing. We have begun communication with and have approval letters from SHPO to do work within this building. As you're aware, we're on the Register of Historic Places. And so that kind of component is critical before moving forward with projects. We have a full set of documents that have been submitted to, and basically a permit is ready for our contractor to pick up and begin work. This is really kind of the final step in terms of getting this project ready to move forward. I could share my screen if you guys would prefer. If not, and you'd like to see more information on it, it's really remodel of the clerk spaces on the first floor that we're talking about here. So in the end, I guess we're looking for the commission to accept the overall project budget and authorize county administrator to move forward with a contract with BA Green in the amount of roughly $202,505. I think that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Jay. Any questions from commissioners for Jay?
Jay, I just want to make sure this is Commissioner Kelly on the number. Shouldn't it be 364, 138? Because that's the entire project budget.
Yes, commissioners, it should.
That's correct.
Okay.
I would just add that the source of this funds, I'm not sure since I wasn't, the source of these funds will be our CIP contingency funds. We also have some funds in our special building fund that we can use towards this. I think costs for this remodel were higher than Jay and I had anticipated for this project. We do have sufficient funds to cover them, but I do think we're going to be using revised numbers moving forward for the rest of our remodeling projects, just based off of current demands and current pricing on construction in the marketplace. The next after this is completed will be the remodel here of the second floor related to the administrative staffing place.
Thank you, Sarah. Any further questions from commissioners? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. See if anybody is online with us for this conversation. Seeing none, we'll close that and bring it back for any continued discussion amongst commissioners. Further comments? All right, I don't have any questions or comments either. Just appreciate that you all have to keep recalculating things, that best laid plans, right? That's what happens with long-term planning, and then unprecedented things like pandemics and inflation. So thanks for the overview. I'll go ahead and make a motion to authorize the county administrator to enter into a mutually agreed upon contract with BA Green Construction for the proposed AP payroll remodel project for the approximate amount of $202,505 and approve a total proposed project budget in the amount of $364,138.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. That closes.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jay. Have a good evening. That closes out our regular agenda. With that, we'll move on to appointments. Do we have any to discuss this evening?
This is Commissioner Kelly. Sarah, do we want to have one for emergency management? Do we need to make that appointment? Okay, let me pull
If
that
you
up.
feel like you're ready. Yeah, so there has been a vacancy from a county appointee on the LEPC, which is the Local Emergency Planning Council. I'm going to get that slightly wrong, but it is the Local Emergency Planning Council for Emergency Management. And we've had a volunteer. Now you just turned yourself off.
Darn it. Thanks for their patience while I pulled this up. glad to nominate Greg Gardner for this position. Greg has been a volunteer for emergency management for quite some time and has been very involved with the program and will serve it well.
Great, I'll go ahead and second that. Thank you for remembering the need for that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Any other appointments to discuss this evening? Okay. Sarah, would you like to discuss your memo with us? Miscellaneous items?
Yes, commissioners, thank you. My weekly memo is online. I do apologize. The attachments are not in order. So I will probably have it. You can probably figure out what's what, but I will have us reorder it and get it back on there. But I did want to point out that Commissioner Reed and I just returned from the National Association of Counties Conference, annual conference, and there's a lot of great information shared. Included in that packet is, and if it's not, I'm trying to thumb through to make sure it's in there. There was some information about housing that, NACO has put together, some information related to housing for every county in Kansas. And so I want to make sure you guys see what they put together for Douglas County and some of the data that they have there together. So also, in addition to that, somewhere in this memo is a letter from the city of Lawrence regarding our relationship with joint sustainability efforts. I've shared with the commission, with the departure of our joint sustainability director, Jasmine Moore, last year. We've had conversations ongoing with the city of Lawrence about how we proceed with sustainability. I want to be very clear here. Both organizations are extremely committed to ongoing work in sustainability. And there's been a lot of conversations about how we can add more resources to that effort, not less. But as a part of that, what we've been exploring is that we may no longer operate a joint office of sustainability, but that we would continue to partner together while we both have sustainability staff working in this area. So that has been a conversation that I've been a part of for the last several months. It's been working at the staff level. I've had initial conversations with commissioners about moving in that direction. That was part of what we put into our 2023 budget, was to realign the funding of our sustainability operations to support that. I'm continuing to meet bi-monthly with the city of Lawrence representatives and Kim Kreiner-Ritchie, our sustainability manager, to make sure that we're working together well as we make sure projects are covered and how we're partnering together. So the letter just indicates that we're formally moving in that direction. And then I think once we kind of get some things more worked out, the city completes their budget process, I think we'll be back with a more formal plan about how who's covering which items and how we're going to continue to partner together really well on this effort. And I just stand for any questions the commissioners might have.
Thanks, Sarah. Any questions from commissioners for Sarah or miscellaneous items to share for the good of the order? Okay, seeing none, I don't have any either. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.